learning and listening to people that are building relationship-based transactions versus transactional, just payment money to money, house to house, that's when I realized, really. And then you also lose track of people because it gets really bogged down. You're doing a lot of admin work, you're doing all the calls, you're out on the field showing houses. It's hard to keep track of the people that may have bought a house from you 3 months ago. So staying in front of them, just checking in.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest is just on fire. I've tried to have her on what seems to be a year, but she's finally here. She is consistently a top producer month over month in the region. She has an extensive understanding of the local market. She has networked with many of the top real estate services, her buyers and sellers, to fulfill their buyers and sellers' needs, to streamline the overall process, saving clients time and money. She focuses on open communication, active listening, and personalized attention with each of her clients. You can often find her wherever yoga is being offered. Let's welcome this amazing agent that I am anxious to hear her story, Miss Amber Strong, to the show.
Hello.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
We are on take 2. We will admit that due to technical difficulties, but we'll do our best because we were deep in a conversation that we're going to start over. And since I probably didn't record my Remy Graphics. Make sure you get your mugs, your laser engraved gifts at Remy Graphics. You can see the ones here, and Amber's taking one home today with the show logo and Remy Graphics on the back. They will do one-offs for your closings. These are just mugs. They do a plethora of other laser engraved gifts that you can have done for your closing or anything, birthday parties, whatever you're doing, anything you need, something engraved, they can do it there at Remy Graphics. So thanks, Remy Graphics. All right. We're going to, like I said, the reenactment to take 2 here is often tough, but you're born in New York.
Yes.
But moved to Maryland when you were young.
Yes.
Was it something your parents there? There was a job your parents moved there, or just they just wanted to get out of the city?
She didn't want me to be raised in the city.
Yeah.
So my mom's originally from Maryland. So I grew up on the Eastern Shore.
Oh, okay.
Very slow, kind of country, laid back atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, I've treaded over that turf a lot because during the 90s, I was living in Northern Virginia, but we did a lot of business all the way up through Baltimore and so forth. And at one time, I had a girlfriend out. That's out in the western part of the state? Because, Maryland kind of does that little curve. It's more where you can cross over the Potomac River and sneak into the, is it
Fredericksburg? Is it?
Not Frederick. I'll have to look it up. Yeah. But anyway, so I've treaded all over. And then you go, and then anytime you, if you're there and you go to the beach, for us, it's just a couple miles. For them, the people from living in DC or, the suburbs there in Maryland, you're trekking out over to the peninsula, right? Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I was about an hour from Ocean City.
Yeah. So you grow up there, but you go back to New York.
I went back to New York for school, and came from a hotel industry. So I actually started with Holiday Inn in the early 2000s, I think 2002. So I stayed in the hotel industry until I got my real estate license when I was working at Soho House in Manhattan.
But do you feel, and I kind of asked, again, I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry for the fans, we had a little technical difficulty because we've talked about this before, but it's very important. The Soho House and the level of customer service that you were doing there, and the clientele, and obviously just simply I would imagine the owners, the management, whatever, they don't just hire anyone to come in there.
Right.
You have to have a level, a standard level of service that you're offering. I mean, do you remember when you got hired, like interviewing? How did they?
Well, I had experience as a guest service manager for Hilton for 6 years. So I think a lot of that experience is the reason they hired me, really. I came with a lot of customer service in the management position within the hotel. So transitioning into Soho House was really just like the same position, but then you're going to see celebrities daily. So making sure that my confidentiality, that I would stand true to that was a big part, which I haven't worked for them now since 2012. So it's been quite some time. So now I kind of talk about it a little bit more, who I saw and who I met on a daily basis.
Well, in doing that service, I met, they come down and they want to go to a show or something like that. How do you handle that, because they're not going to travel necessarily the way, you and I, if we went to New York City, we, stay at the Hilton, whatever, we'd go down and get an Uber or cab or whatever and go.
Yeah.
Some of these celebrities, I imagine, need to come in the side door.
Yeah. And they have an entourage with them, and you have to act normal and not be starstruck, really,
right.
because that's the reason they're coming to Soho houses, so they don't have that crazy fame, people looking and drooling all over them, so you really just take it as a professional approach and thank them for being there. And there is one private elevator that will take them to the private rooftop club, so everything pretty much stays confidential. There's no telephones allowed up at the top.
I would imagine the different celebrities treat you different ways. They know you're starstruck.
Yeah.
Others try to let you know that they're just regular people.
Yeah,
don't they? And then there's others that are, hey, I'm a star.
Oh, I've definitely met those.
Kiss the ring.
Yeah. Some pop stars are very much so like that.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and they probably came from the least means of ever,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now they're just too cool for school, right?
Yes. I always like to relate the past job to, and you could take this all the way, you've been now in real estate over a decade, right? Mm-hmm. So some of those experiences in dealing with those people, we fall back on. How did we handle that situation before, right? A good interview question, if you're interviewing your job, is like, hey, I had that difficult pop star. Yeah, he was difficult. Okay, well, tell me what happened, right? Mm-hmm. Give it some color commentary. So with your customers you're dealing with today, I would imagine there's some of the things, although you may not think about it directly, but some of the situations that you were in back in the Soho house, even today with some difficult clients, you rely on some of the similar tactics, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. You stay calm, you smile, and you listen. That is the biggest. I think that is what kind of gets you through those situations.
Right.
You have to be open-minded, and you have to sit there and you listen to everything that they're telling you, and you can give feedback. But I think just being there to be a lending ear to a lot of what they're looking for.
That is such vital advice. I think some of us lose it because we don't every day deal with a hostile person in any situation. But usually, imagine whether it was at the Hilton, at the Soho, or right at the agents you're working with, or not agents, but clients you're working with today. Sometimes they just want to blow off some sort of steam. It may not have anything to do with you. Most of the time it doesn't.
Right.
They're just blowing off steam, and so really they just want someone to hear it.
Yes, and that's true. You just can't take anything personal.
Yeah.
You don't know what lens they're coming from, and just being open-minded to that, I think, is big. What's going to push you forward in this industry. Right.
And I think you often can gain a lot of respect from that person after you listen to them if you handle it the right way. Sure. Understand that they're just we don't know what's happened in their life 5 minutes ago, yesterday, whatever's going on, the stresses they're doing, and all of a sudden whatever happened in front of you just set off the.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I do yoga every day. It helps me. Don't forget to breathe. Stay present, and and just don't be as emotional. That's kind of what can cause problems in this industry, is when an agent gets emotional and takes things personal.
Yeah.
This is not an emotional position. It can be, but take it as a transaction and build a relationship. That's the biggest focus. I think that it will push you ahead.
I would say a lot of times, occasionally that the blow up, now today when you're doing real estate and selling individual houses, sometimes that blow up happens while they're there. But I would say most of the time, because 90% of I don't know, maybe at least 80% of the transaction, you're actually talking to them over the phone or handling stuff that you're not actually dealing with. So when they have a blow up, a lot of times it's over the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are some tactics, that you learned? I have some things that are going through my head, but I want to hear what you have to say from, learning how to handle some difficult clients. You've got the control of the phone. What goes through your mind? Like, how are you going to handle this? How are you going to breathe?
make sure I'm breathing and I listen and I let them speak. You cannot cut someone off when they're venting or letting you know where they're coming from. You know, the biggest part is to have an open ear and allow them the room and the space to say what they need to say, because this is a big transaction and maybe the biggest transaction they're going to make of their life. So there's going to be emotions involved, and the emotional side should be with the customers, not with the agents. I think that's what can cause some problems, is when the agents become emotional or take on that energy that the customer is spitting out of the phone, and then it comes out of the agent's mouth to the other. You know, things could get twisted. So just being open-minded, letting that customer speak, and then responding through facts, responding through numbers. If it's a problem with the purchase price or the sale price, really what we're here to do is back them with the stats, with the facts of where the market's going or where it has come from. The most challenging customer I have at the moment is putting in offers nearly $100,000 under asking. And, you know, that's a struggle. I've written nearly 5 offers. It's like, when do I get to this point where you're not listening to me and you hired me to guide you? So the whole goal is to get the contract, to get the customer into the home that they want at the best price possible. However, it needs to be reasonable.
Do you find what are the characteristics? Because I know some of these stories that I've heard from the agents, that agent on the other side who kind of starts putting their ego, that's for lack of better words, description, into it, or almost like they're the ones selling that house or buying this, in this negotiations. Like, no, dude, you're just representing them. And do you find it is it newer agent, or is it really just an agent that's not savvy in negotiations, or, you know, the things that obviously you've learned through your life to be, you know, take that breath and listen? Is there a characteristic of those individuals, you think?
Yes. And, you know, and I think a lot of it is that they're not breathing. They're just speaking right from their head, out their mouth, and not really taking time for it to kind of settle in, and making sure that they're projecting things in the best light. You know, really just staying positive is a huge impact. It makes a huge impact when getting a transaction to close. There is the most challenging part sometimes is the agent on the other side, and having a partnership with them. You're representing your customer, but at the same time, you need to come to a medium. There needs to be a win-win for both parties.
The collaboration and
And the agents, it's not about us. All we're here again to bring is the experience, the negotiation tools, and the facts. And
have you ever said something to the agent on the other side that was being a little more difficult?
Yes, I've definitely voiced my opinion about maybe their ego is getting in the way. You know?
But like I said, it's that mindset, and that's why I wonder: is it a new agent, or is it just someone's? Because, you know, we all have different personalities. Is that just their personality? That they want to be that way, or they're actually really not getting the coaching behind them, or like I said, maybe this is their first or second sale, or it's the only sale they've had in 6 months, so they're like trying to, you know, they're getting it too personalized because they're waiting for that check, right? They just need that check.
I don't know. I think maybe the newer agents might be a little bit easier because they haven't been through many of the situations. And when I say easier, I mean maybe a little bit calmer and laid back, because they don't really have much to push with because they don't have that experience yet. So I guess what I'm getting to is that maybe the more experienced and seasoned agents might be the ones that are...
They think they know something.
They think they know something. That's correct.
There are some smart agents, you know, although they have to kind of put out there, hey, I'm new, and obviously you've been doing this for, you know, years. You got your track record. Amber, how should I, you know, I imagine they ask directly, how would you handle this?
Sure. Yeah. I've been asked that before, and I'm honest, you know, and I think that's what builds my business and pushes it so far along, is that I'm transparent with not only the agent, but I'm transparent with the customer. So being upfront and honest is the biggest tool that you can bring to the table.
I am, you know, there's something about when there's someone in the room that I feel does not have integrity. I can just feel it.
You can feel it. Right.
And when you are, well, I can be a little too raw sometimes. My wife doesn't necessarily like that, but there are people who do. New Yorkers can handle that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
They know you're not playing around with them.
They know you're telling the truth and you're putting it out there, and it's like, let's solve this deal. Here's all the pieces.
Right.
Let's put this together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a puzzle. You got to put all the pieces together to make the whole picture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So you're at Soho. You're recruited. What the lady's name again?
Nancy Pax.
Nancy Pax. Recruit you over to run some buildings for her in leasing. Express to the audience a little bit about the difference between the sales, call it sales tactics, sales routines, process in leasing versus, what you are doing now and obviously selling individual homes.
Sure. Well, I think one point,
and at a high price point, we should say you're men in.
Right. Yeah. Minimal, monthly lease then was 10,000 up to 25,000 a month. So we're talking about big dollars being spent per month that in the end isn't really a huge return for the customer. So they need to feel comfortable about what it is that they're committing to for this next year. And with that, it's not only about the apartment that they're renting or the floor and the view, it's about the amenities within the building and the surrounding area around it. So similar to when you're selling a home, leasing it, you need to be just as educated on the amenities, the building, what transportation around, where they can go to shop and eat. So to make a building stand out when a developer is building it, they need to make sure there's higher end shopping in there. The gym is top notch. Equinox was the gym that is the most popular there when I was there, and I'm sure it still is now. So, but having those high end, top of the line amenities is important, especially at
and
that
those companies
point.
put a lot of research into that.
Oh yeah,
a lot of money into knowing what the customer wants. But that brings up an interesting thing because obviously in Florida and especially in St. Johns County, but a lot of these, a lot of us live in these planned urban development neighborhoods where these amenities are built in. So I would imagine, you draw from some of that. That client comes in the lease from you. You're trying to sell them like, hey, my building's the best building because of this. That's kind of what you're doing today.
Yeah. They align, side by side. Really, just in a leasing standpoint, it is more of a short term. You're looking at maybe a year or a year and a half or 2 years with this customer, whereas you're setting up a lifetime transaction in the sales.
Yeah.
So the investment side of it is really what kind of separates the two.
Right.
When a customer's coming in and they're buying a home, they're investing in that home. They're going to build equity. They're planning to raise a family there. Whereas in a leasing standpoint, it's really for a transient position, whether it's a job or what have you.
Or they're just hanging out
maybe
for a little bit.
Maybe they're looking to buy.
Yeah. What are some of the things? I think that's important, and I don't think I've talked about it recently on the show. We have a lot of people who move into the area has some sort of expectation of, hey, I'm moving to Florida. I want a pool in the neighborhood because you're up in north. First of all, if you haven't, most of them have never had an HOA,
right? Let
alone the CDDs here in our area that are in around the state. What do you do when you're having that initial consultation, especially with a buyer? Because you've had that, you have that experience of digging into leases, but now you've been doing it with the communities. What are some of the important things if someone's listening right now, especially a new agent and wanting to sell in St. Johns County, for example, and whether it's Nocatee or where I'm at St. John's Golf and Country Club, but all of them have something a little different.
Yeah, knowledge, getting out there, getting in front of builders, the communities, go in them yourself. If you're a new agent and you don't know the area, start booking showings, start scheduling them on the books and go and check out the different neighborhoods. Amenities are super important to people.
Yeah.
So you need to know what each community has, what they're building in the future, because they may have already started building and maybe they're adding a pickleball. That's great to know because when you are doing a buyer consultation, you should be asking just as many questions as the customer is asking you.
Yeah.
So you listen while they're talking, but then you follow up with a question because you're really trying to learn about them to make sure you're setting them up for the best possible place that you can, recommend when they do get here.
Yeah. I know one of the challenges that a lot of agents are having right now is some of these people, bought their house just 2 years ago, and now they realize either they don't like the neighborhood, don't like their neighbors, whatever it may be, and now they're trying to sell that house, yet there's still new construction going on.
Yes.
And having to battle against those incentives versus
Sure.
this now 2-year-old house.
Yeah. And, I'm transparent with my buyers when they do buy early in a new construction. I make it very well. I ask that question. Are you planning to be here for 3 to 5 to 7 years? Because you will be competing against that builder. And it's challenging, especially when they're buying loans at bulk and they're able to offer a 2.99 interest rate and you're trying to resell and interest rates are at 7%. Unless you can give an extensive, discount, they're more than
for $100,000 less, like your current buyer.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where he needs to go.
Exactly.
He needs to find that neighborhood that's still got something going on and someone's trying to sell their existing home.
That's very true. Yeah.
Get the deal.
My suggestions.
All right. So you have an opportunity to move to Hawaii.
Yes.
So you move out there.
Took the big leap.
Yeah. So you're going from leasing now. Well, I guess you thought you were going to be leasing, but really you went right into sales out there.
Yeah. Oahu has, is the major city. So Waikiki has all the tall buildings. As soon as I got there, I thought, okay, I'm just going to position myself in these buildings. Little did I know that that's not really a trend in Hawaii. So each one of those buildings are
sold out already.
Yeah, they're already sold out. So I aligned myself with top agents, luxury agents that do high volume within a Keller Williams brokerage that I was with and where I got started there and was a listing coordinator. So I kind of I was in the position where I could just be a sponge and learn everything I possibly could. And listings are my foundation of my business. So coming from a position of being an assistant to listing agents gave me the path to grow and, to align myself with
a little bit of an apprenticeship there, which some people think real estate agents should go through that in the beginning.
I think
definitely having a mentor. Did you just get lucky with the Keller Williams or did you research that? Did you go and have some coffees with some agents and get a lay of the land, so to speak?
Sure, I did. Yeah, absolutely. Checked out brokerages throughout the whole island and kind of tried to position myself where I knew I had room to grow, where they were going to take me each step of the way. And, education is so important. So you need to make sure that a brokerage or a team that you're with is going to take time to pour into you.
Where did you get that? Not every person has that mindset. You've been in the business long enough where I could say, well, maybe you just developed that recently, but it sounds like the way you're telling the story is you already had that. You were searching out, you were looking at these different brokerages and who was there, what the culture was, were there other people? Where did you pick up that it's important? Again, that we are the 5 people we hang out with. Where did you pick up that was important and it's really should be number 1 or 2 on your list?
Well, starting in hotels, I actually started in housekeeping. And then I worked my way up to guest service front office manager. So I was in many positions before I had got to where I was ending before I started in real estate. So that kind of goes back to where I was in Hawaii when I started as a listing coordinator. I kind of want to just be at the bottom so I can see my way up to the top and learn. And then you can kind of evaluate who are those 5 people that I want to align myself with. So you kind of get a different perspective.
All right. So a fairly new agent listening right now, and you did it again when you came here. What are some things that you get you look for these top agents, you find out who's doing the business. You called them, had a cup of coffee with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the questions you were asking them to get a true sense of a feel what was going on at their brokerage and whether or not this person was someone who would actually pour into you?
Sure. I think learning their history and where they started can kind of be the foundation of whether I want to align myself with this person or not. Were they grandfathered into the industry because their parents know everyone and they got their license and then they only sell to their family?
Right.
Is that someone?
Mom's just referring everything over to them.
Yeah. So, asking questions and finding out where they came from, because that encourages me. If I can hear that they may have started in a similar position I'm in, and then I'm looking at them from a newer agent in an area, not necessarily a brand new agent, but new to the area, then that means that I may want to align myself with them because they have the same values and they can also foresee that. And that person at the top still has people that they're, looking to be, or they're still having the 5 people that they want to be like. So, being all the way at the tip top, well, who's going to learn who do they learn from?
Right.
They've already know everything. So
I would imagine a question that someone would have, you're looking for these top people and people say, well, why would you want to throw yourself in there with other lions if you want to be a lion or a lioness?
Yeah. I mean, you got to learn from them, right?
Yeah. Why? So explain the mindset that, or explain why they are sort of competition, but they're not. And as many of the top real estate agents that I've had on, all of them will tell you that, if they didn't directly say it on the show, they don't see the other agents as competition.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You actually need to be in that pool, or what do you call it? Trying to use pack. We'll call it a pack. We'll call it a pack. Yeah. Be in that pack of lionesses or lions, because you're going to go further.
Yeah.
Than if you were trying to do it alone because you want to avoid the pack. You don't want to be over here. Or I got to protect me and what's going on. You really have a very scarce mindset, I guess, really.
Yeah. And I mean, they say if you can't beat them, join them, right? So you align yourself with those people because you're going to every day grow from them. And every transaction's different. As many transactions as I've had over the last 14, 15 years, I'm still learning every day. And I think that's what gives me the ability to continue to grow, is that I'm not closed-minded and I stay a sponge. I stay learning. But I also give back. So making sure that you're able to teach a new agent what you've learned. You give and take. Yeah.
I think that's another thing in our business, because I mean, it's the same thing on the loan side. I mean, when I was in the call centers and doing volume, I mean, it's the number, how many credit reports you're doing, pulling a day. I mean, they really wanted you, probably pulling 5 or 6 credit reports a day. Well, that's 5 or 6 people you're, doing a pseudo interview with. That's 5 or 6 people you're learning the type of work they do, how they get paid, right? From the lending side, how are they getting paid? Is this something I can actually get approved in a loan situation? Sure. Those types of things. And knowing that everybody is different, because I think it's just strengthens that our business is never really going to be taken over by computers, because there's just too many different little things that come through that a computer can do a lot, but there still needs to be a human to come in and fill in the little crevices that the computers can't get, because of our business is so, whether it's the property, it's unique. Title work, the properties imagine you've dealt with stuff out at the beach, right? There's unique situations out there, title and access and all this other jazz that a computer doesn't, you can't get all that information in there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, the emotional side of it, although us as agents don't want the emotional side to come out, because that's not what we're hired for, but you have to be able to understand and listen to someone and know that this is an emotional transaction for the buyer or the seller. This is something that they've poured their heart into, whether that's saving the funds to get to purchase the property, or whether it's the property that you're selling and you've owned for the last 30 years. There's a lot that goes into that, and that's where that human interaction comes in. Yeah, and you have to be open to that.
Because I imagine, have you ever had the situation where you have maybe the family over here, and it is, hey, got to get the right schools and all the warm and fuzzy things. They're really just focused on doing, making sure, the obvious thing is price point. Yeah, can I afford it? Right, that's obvious. But after the affordability piece is put aside, now we know, hey, we're in the right price range. But I got this neighborhood, that neighborhood, and you're trying to find that right one, and then make sure the kids are going to be in school, the right amenities are there for their age group or whatever it is. Right, you got all the emotional, social things, and then you got another client over here who's all about the deal. Yeah. And he never finds the deal. Right. I always call it, you stepping over a quarter to pick up a nickel.
I'm working with a customer like that right now.
Yeah. The two ends of the extreme there. And sometimes you have them both at the same time. Yeah. Yeah.
You definitely have to be able to wear multiple masks in a position like this, because you can be on the phone with the emotional one at this point, and the next thing you know, your phone rings or you're making another call, and it's a totally different personality on the phone. Yeah. So just having that ability to kind of shift and move through each conversation with transparent, but being open, and empathetic to their situation.
Right. Yeah. Well, I imagine going back to the Soho house, you had that one maybe celebrity came down in front of you. Hey, what show should I go to? I don't know. This one's really good. Okay, can we get tickets? Great. Boom, they're off. Yeah, another one. well, is that going to be the right show? Is it going to be good? Am I going to get the front row seat? And 3 hours later, the show's already over.
The show's over.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It's the same type of thing. You're just bringing it now to dealing with buyers and sellers today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely align together, and that was the foundation of my business and how I got into real estate is having that customer service background and that just being open-minded to everyone's situation.
All right. So you start working as a, what do you call it, listing coordinator. You're taking this in. When do you make the break to actually be the listing agent?
It took a long time to go from a salaried position to a commission position. So, yeah.
Was the Soho, how did the Soho pay you? You had commission?
I got paid commission plus hourly.
Plus an hourly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, and then when I was in the listing coordinator position, I was paid hourly and plus a small commission on each transaction that closed.
Right.
But for me to go to strictly commission was a big move to make. I took that leap and I'm never going back. Once you're in it, not clocking in and out anymore.
Well, I mean, you had built up such a, I'm going to call it momentum, your knowledge. I imagine when you stepped out there, I think one of the challenges, I know you deal with a lot of new agents. You see people coming in from all over. Confidence is a challenge, but you had this track record already. You knew yourself, how you were going to handle yourself. Now you get thrown out there. I imagine like you said, you're nervous because you stepped off the edge, but you had the confidence because you had the experience already.
Sure.
What was going on?
Because I aligned myself with the right people. Again, just evaluating the people that you're aligning yourself with, I wanted to make sure that they also were still in a position of growing and they were able to share what they're learning with me. And that helped me make that decision. I knew that I was backed and supported with the agents that I was working with.
That's an interesting statement that they were still growing.
Yeah.
What's your litmus test for that?
Well, I think none of us really know it all. So just staying open-minded to always being able to learn and grow is who I want to be aligned with. Because if I'm aligning myself with someone who swears that they know everything, then they're losing out.
And they haven't been to a conference or they just take the minimal continuing ed. They don't really go above and beyond type of thing. And, I don't know, I can't remember because we're doing a retake basically here, but talk about having some of those coffee appointments with these agents that you wanted to work with and asking some of this, hey, have you gone to a conference lately? Are you gone, where are you getting your education from? And what are some of the things that you might, again, an agent who might be listening right now to try to find these people like you found what kind of question would they kind of ask to try to draw out if that person is someone who's always looking to grow and learn something new? And
I think you can only, are they coachable? Are they being coached at this point? That's important to know, because if an agent's telling me that they don't have a coach and, they've learned it all and they're just basically doing continuing education, that goes to tell me that they're going to hit a limit, whether they may have already hit it at this point. And, aligning myself with agents that are continuing to grow, I may know a lot more than they may know, know, and until you have those conversations, you don't really know for sure.
Yeah.
So asking, are you being coached right now? Who have you aligned yourself with? Are you masterminding with top agents throughout the United States?
Right.
Because having the different perspectives is important, because you need to bring new and innovative things to the table.
Yeah. Well, everyone has a different way they do their business. That's the great thing about real estate. You can do it a lot of different ways, but you have to find the way where you thrive, which I think you're there, and you're always looking, how much faster can I swim that lap, right? Can I get another second off my lap? And you're always looking for that in your business. So you're consistently looking for new ideas and growing that. When did you find out? Because I think one of the biggest challenges for real estate agents, and probably a lot of just people in general in their careers, is finding that sweet spot. What is it I'm doing that's getting me the most referrals? What am I doing? How important is it to, we talked about pre-show, one of the things we want to talk about, to love what you do? Because if you didn't like having coffee appointments with other agents to collaborate, just you didn't find that interesting, well, obviously you wouldn't do it. And then if in this case, you feel that's part of your success, then you wouldn't be successful, right? Because you just like avoid that because it's not fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you don't love doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely got to love what you do. You got to love people, and you got to love to learn, and again, and find your niche. Really, every agent that comes in, you probably don't know exactly what type of client you're going to work with at first, and you don't really get a choice sometimes, especially when you're starting out. You're working with everyone and anyone that's willing to have a transaction with you and build a relationship with you. One thing that I think I did wrong when I first started is I was on a transaction level. I wasn't building relationships. So when I did find out that this is more relationship based than it is transactions, that's when everything changed for me. And that's when I realized the benefit of staying in front of these people that are working through a transaction with you. It's not only a transaction, this is a lifelong decision that they're making. And I want to be that lifelong friend as well.
When did this click for you?
Probably about halfway through, maybe a year into working in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it a certain client or something? What happened at that time? It just
listening to other agents that, I'm aligning myself with. The agent that's doing the transactions like a transaction, again, or someone that's not going to give you the nitty gritty of what's going to build the business and what's going to keep it going. So learning and listening to people that are building relationship-based transactions versus transactional, just payment, money to money, house to house, that's when I realized, really. And then you also lose track of people because it gets really bogged down. You're doing a lot of admin work, you're doing all the calls, you're out on the field showing houses. It's hard to keep track of the people that may have bought a house from you 3 months ago. So staying in front of them, just checking in. I mean, it could be as small as a text just to stay top of mind.
I had one question on deck, and then you caused me bring another question and knock the on deck batter off. This is the challenge. Was it because prior to this tipping point, we'll call it, you weren't looking long term?
I wasn't looking long term.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I was just trying to keep my head above the water.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I started realizing that this is something I'm going to do for life, not that I want to be out selling houses for life, but just being involved in real estate, whether that's becoming my own, investor and building my own portfolio. I'm not going to live in all the houses I want to own. So I need to I'm bringing the experience from the leasing side, the relationship side, staying in front of those people, the people that may lease my place or may want to eventually buy when they come out of it.
Right.
So, just being a whole.
Well, at that point, you were at your point in your life where you were still, you weren't necessarily working from paycheck to paycheck, but you weren't like saying, hey, this is a business that I'm going to have for 30 years, whatever. Yeah. And I think a lot of agents do get in, and that's, as we do with a lot of jobs, we get in and we just start going with the daily minutia and kind of like, okay, hold on a second. I can make tomorrow a little bit easier. I can make next year a little bit easier if I start actually, milking and caring for the people that are right in front of me right now.
Sure.
I had an interesting call, a former mortgage coach that I had a few years ago. He does this thing every morning at 9:00, and I tuned in yesterday to it. And he said something kind of on the same level. He sat down, what changed his mortgage business years ago. He was told by someone, I think whoever he was working for, gave him $500 and said, "Here, I want you to go, and I want you to take, I don't know if there was a number, 5 people or whatever, out to dinner. 5 people that have, respect for you, maybe look to advice for or whatever. Take them out to dinner." But the key point was at the end of it was to ask them for help. Okay. Help me meet new people. Do you know anyone? I'm in real estate now. He was in mortgages. Make these connections. And people do, I do. If someone says, hey, I need help to find somebody that does this, I mean, if I know it, I'm immediately responding. Sure. Or, I said, what, so-and-so that I know may know, because that's the type of, I start networking in my mind of who knows who, because the world is very small.
And being the one to offer that to what you already know gives the ability for someone to, it's that give and take. You're giving out as much as you're taking in. So it's wonderful that you're able to.
Well, it's one of John Maxwell's, I think, 25 ways to influence people. Well, one is introducing the people, but it's not just introducing, it's being able to make that network. And so he said it changed his business because it's resulted in, not some huge amount of loans over it, but what it did is it started kind of like our way our social media works, right? You get inside someone's circle, someone friends you, now you're entering into their circle and that sort of thing. And you start opening your circles and people start organizing. Like, how many people are you friends with on Facebook that you never have met in your life, right? You're friends because you're friends of that friend and that friend and that sort of thing going on. But your post is being seen by them because you're friends.
Yeah. I had a past client just text me a card of an electrician, and she says, "This guy is friends with you on Facebook. Do you know him?" And I'm like, "Have never met him." And she's like, "Is he licensed?" So I was able to go on sunbiz.org and pull it up and show her that he was active. And I'm glad that she relied on me for that. You know? And she could see, and I don't know that guy from Adam, but he must know someone that I know.
Well, my belief is, and I pitched this to Florida Realtor too, the real estate agents through the NAR settlement, it took some collateral damage. So you guys have the mindset now, you're out there and you need to show your value, right? I think for a period of time, many were just assuming the value. Now you have to actually express it, that's okay. And the strong will survive that. But real estate agents are pillars in the community. They're influencers. I mean, we know housing, and I've said this for those who've listened to this as my speech. I don't say it every episode, but occasionally. But housing is such a big part of our economy. But who's making that happen? And that's the real estate agent. If there's not a real estate agent, we're not selling houses as efficiently as we would sell them. Eventually, people would figure it out, right? They would do it. But it's the real estate agent that comes in and makes that transaction hopefully smooth and seamless and easy, that people go, hey, I can buy a house because I'm going to have the support of that real estate agent. And then they're asking you, hey, what's a good restaurant?
Right.
What's this good electrician?
Because we're the neighborhood experts.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, there long ago is that time where you just show up at a house and you don't know anything about that property. Now, if you're a buyer's agent, you need to do the research ahead of time, show your value ahead of time, because it is all laid out on the table now. So I actually appreciate the way things are going now. And now I'll get the call from the agent who doesn't have the correct education or might not have aligned themselves with these top agents, and they have no idea how to write a seller to buyer broker addendum. Like, you don't know how you're getting paid? That's very strange to me. But I'm building relationships with those agents that are asking me those questions, because those are the ones that need to grow a little more.
Well, how important, especially through this last 6 months, where the new buyer broker agreement, you had to start, was it August 1st that had to start?
August 17th.
17th, so you had to start doing that. But because I know a lot of them, I've had some of the top brokers on the show, leaders in our area, who are out in front of it. They were already coaching coaching their teams well in advance. Like, obviously, your team, Florida Coastal team, however Chris was organizing, you guys were teaching each other, whatever. You were ready for it, knew it was coming, but yet now you still today, you're getting a phone call 3 months later now, or 2.5 months later, your phone calls from these people who are clueless. And I'm hearing this, you're not the only person that's told me this. There's still agents out there who are just don't fully get it. And the only information they got might have been from one source, which may have been their broker, but the good broker should have been telling them, hey, you need to go over to Landmark. They're talking about it today. You need to go down to NEFAR. They're talking about it today. They're doing a lunch and learn where they have a top broker from another agent coming in, or, explaining this. Because you, just like the contract, you need to be regularly hearing how people are presenting that buyer broker agreement, and then the situations that have arisen from it.
Yeah. Chris Snow and Ross Menendez of the Florida Coastal team, and we were learning about this transition months before it even took place. It was a weekly conversation that we were having. And then when I'm talking to my peers and my friends that are in the industry, they're like, oh no, we're just going to learn about it on the 17th. I'm like, whoa, how are you really setting yourself up for a success if you're not even talking it through weeks ahead?
Right.
And you're just going to start when the new, race starts, and basically when the go sign hits, you're still going to be trying to backtrack and learn what others, agents like myself, are 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard multiple stories of this going on where that's on a timer. My next question. Well, you transitioned to LPT, has it been a year?
January.
So 10 months now. Tell us a little about what's different at LPT, because you were with EXP for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think LPT probably stole a lot of ideas or
Very
how things were
similar,
done from that standpoint. But obviously, Mr. Palmer's trying to make things a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little about that.
I think having, the smaller scale versus where EXP was on a very large scale, it was hard to communicate and talk to the people that may be at the top making the decisions. So with LPT being a smaller brokerage at the current moment, we have everyday conversations with Robert Palmer. Every Monday morning we're seeing him live on Zoom. We're having conversations. We're able to.
Oh, he's that active.
Yeah, he's very active.
Interesting.
He's come into our office. He's breaking ground on the new Jacksonville Armada Soccer Stadium in 2025. So very involved, and I like that. I loved EXP too. It was nice, but to get and hold and talk to the people at the top is just
Okay. Well, I'm gonna challenge you with the quiz question, Mr. Palmer. Although it's obviously mortgages is where he made his. I don't know if that's where he's made all his money. I don't know the full story, but obviously a good portion over there. But now you're looking to him for expertise, but he's never sold a house before.
right. But he aligns with himself with people that have. So he might not have all the, the answers to everything, but he's brought people on to the brokerage that can and are growing and steadily, during the transition that week of August 17th, when we were doing that, we had 6 different classes every single day for 2 weeks straight to make sure every agent in our brokerage had questions answered and was learning on a daily basis. You could hop in and on Zoom, but anywhere between, I think, 8 a.m. to all the way as late as 10 p.m., depending on if you were in the East or West Coast. So just having that open dialogue.
What's it like to be around? Because it sounds like, Chris has built this, Florida coastal team. I mean, he's got a thing going on, and I know some people have come and gone, but there's a core group of there. And I think it's I think of any of the great teams, whether they're at Keller Williams or anywhere else in town, their longevity revolves around how big their core is growing. There's always some agents that are coming and going around on the outside, but that core, there's always the agent comes in and says, wow, I want to be here.
Yeah.
And they join the core. And to have like that training going on, that the mentality like yours to take in new information every day. So I imagine you run those Zoom calls as much as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every chance I could get to grow and learn. I'm in a position where I want to be a sponge, and I'll always be one because I can grow and learn from anyone that's bringing something to the table.
How does an agent, though, because we do see some of these new agents, and there are some brokerages that are really good at taking in total green agents, and we want to educate, but obviously you don't get paid for sitting in a classroom.
Right.
It's not corporate America where you're still in the salary, even though you're sitting in training.
Yeah.
You've got a budget training, whether it's daily, monthly, or whatever. How do you handle that with your schedule, especially, the volume you're doing, yet still learning something new?
Yeah. Time blocking. That's everything. I time block from 8 to 12 every day for my phone calls. I don't go on appointments until late in the afternoon. I've made an exception for today because of our time difference, but usually
we're doing a marketing thing here.
Yeah.
We're creating some content.
This is, yes. Yeah. So either way, it's going to help build my business, right? But making sure that you're making the phone calls, you're time blocking the education. I have a goal to at least make 2 classes a month. So, it's not a substantial amount, but I'm at least getting in to education.
What would equate to a class? Is a lunch and learn a class?
A lunch and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just something, as long as I'm learning and I'm growing, I'd make sure that I at least take 2 times a month for that. That's going stopping at Landmark and learning about new contracts. Because we not only went through adding a buyer broker agreement, but we also transitioned from the Northeast Florida contract to the FAR bar only.
Yeah.
And I had used the FAR bar contract several times in the past, because especially if you're selling with investors, that's the contract they prefer. So I was aware of it, but using it on a daily basis every single day, you got to go in and you got to learn.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're writing.
What's in it, what's not in it, and so forth. I'm big on when I do something that it has multiple reasons to do it. Would you agree that it's important to go to these trainings as well with other agents to meet them?
Yeah. Relationship based, I'm not going to say that the most popular agent will get you the best deal, but they're going to know more people on the other side. It's nice when you're writing a contract and you're like, I've worked with that listing agent before.
Yeah.
They know how I work. They know I'm going to get this deal done. It does come down to
well,
that
it builds
sometimes.
credibility. I think when you just said that statement, if I'm a buyer and you're like, oh yeah, oh, you love that house. Oh, that's a great house. Oh, Sally, I know Sally. Let me get the skinny on what's going on. Offer the most successful or most efficient offer. What? That builds credibility for you. That you are known. You do deals. You know people. And you say, imagine your buyer feels, oh, she knows this. She knows the listing agent. We're going to get this house. Imagine it just makes you sound more credible.
Yeah.
Because you can legitimately say that because you have met them before. As I told you, I'm working on this speech, talk. And working off this book, Grit, that I just read. If you've not read Grit, it is very interesting. And Miss Duckworth has done a tremendous amount of information. But you started hearing about Grit, and I think about all the agents that I've had on, and putting this talk together. I'm like, wow, I know some people right off the bat that I want to tell their story within this to strengthen my opinion on Grit and what it takes. So I think there's three things. Not only that these are the only three things, but three things that I think are important in situations in my life where grit has come through for me. But I talk about love, laughter, and consistency. You have found something you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
If someone said, what is it you love about real estate the most?
I love the relationship building, the goal, achieving the goal. They're out to have a result. And me being a part of that and being there at the end goal is what's rewarding to me.
And, I'm sure you've had customers, whether they baked you cookies or just gave you a great review and said, Amber, my God, we couldn't have done it without you. That's your high.
Yeah.
Laughter I call it laughter from the standpoint because in life we hit walls, we hit obstacles, we have fall on our face, whatever it is. There's that moment where we're like, why am I doing this? And I would imagine, over a decade that you've been in real estate, probably have had one of those days or months or whatever. Yeah. I laughed through it. I think I was telling you pre-show. Today, I laugh at the Lord, say, okay, man, what is it? Just tell me what you want me to do, okay? Because laughter relaxes us, I think, changes our endorphins or whatever the science is behind it. What is it that you've laughed through? Something that wall that you hit in real estate and you did your own laughter to get through it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I think if you've got 7 to 10 transactions going at one time, that's 10 to maybe 20 personalities that you're dealing with. Everyone's having ups and downs, and you are just taking it all. They're telling you everything that's going on, and you're just taking it all. It's like
taking in all their colds and all their, it's draining you.
I do yoga so often. Because they're just pouring it all onto me, and I'm taking it in, but I have to have the ability to not let it affect me.
Yeah.
So I think there was a point where I didn't realize that early on in my career, and I would take these things personally, and it would tear me up inside. And, someone's having a bad situation on the transaction, it might fall apart. It's not necessary that I'm saying, oh my gosh, it's going to fall apart for me. I'm more worried about the family that during COVID, when there was a shortage on construction, I myself was in a short-term rental because I was buying new construction, but then I had 10 other other customers that were buying new construction and no one could move. So they're all in hotels.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I'm listening to their situation. I'm not.
They're venting on you.
Yeah, they're venting on me, and I'm like, I'm right there with you. We're living in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath townhome, and boxes are in our garage.
Yeah.
Because we're in the same boat as you. So I think that's some time when I needed to grab some grit.
Yeah.
And get through it.
Well, you had to step back and then realize, well, wow, I got like 10 transactions going on right now.
Yeah.
They all eventually will close. Mm-hmm. But you get right down, whether it's personal, you get like, you're so focused on that person because they're just venting on you. And all of a sudden your blood pressure hits the roof but you just got to step back and just,
The beach is nice to have close by.
You
can just take your phone, you drive to the beach, you leave your phone in the car, and you go and walk. And you take
the water will eventually part, and you'll be able to. That's the laughter that I talk about. Sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself, laugh at the situation. It's just it's not the end of the world. Hopefully, no one died. Waiting in their hotel room before their houses get built. A little uncomfortable for a little while, but we all grow from it.
Yeah.
What do you or what have you been doing? Have you found that you do consistently, whether it's, daily, monthly, or whatever, that really, really just helps your business?
The phone calls, to the touches, making sure that you're reaching out to people. And whether it's not necessarily home buyers and sellers, I do talk to home buyers and sellers, probably 50 to 100 of them per day. I do take 2 days off. I try not to
talk to them 50 to 100 a day?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of time.
That's the goal from
Or you make that many calls, maybe hopefully reach.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
My goal, at least 10 conversations.
10 conversations,
but it might take me 50 to 100 phone calls to actually get that many conversations.
Yeah.
So just being consistent at that, because everyone has something going on in their day-to-day. If you're just... Okay, and let me back that up. So I am making calls from 8 to 12, but I also need to have a flip side where if I'm not reaching this person at 8 to 12, then I need to time block myself some time in the afternoon so that I can
catch them on their schedule.
Catch them on their schedule, right? So just being able to maneuver and shift your business, but just staying consistent with it. So yes, it might be this afternoon versus yesterday morning, but at least I'm getting it in.
So what Ricky Carruth was teaching and what he was doing is a lot of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because to someone who's listening right now, and there's other brokerages that are very successful in town, again, they talk about the number of conversations. Explain to me, what is a successful conversation at a minimal level?
Finding out their situation. That's a successful conversation. It's really just gathering more info, finding out what the problem is so I can bring a solution to the table, because that's what we are, problem solvers.
So, I mean, you're reaching out. Are these necessary leads, or some of them are just past clients? When you say you're calling 50 to 100 to try to have 10 conversations,
most of them are online leads, yes. Okay. But then, yes, past customers, it's very important to touch base with them because they're the ones that know you.
Right.
And you can update their file. But situations change, They may have bought a year ago and they were planning to stay in the home for the next 5 to 10 years, but something's changed. Their job has changed. I wouldn't necessarily know unless I'm reaching out to ask those questions.
100%.
Just ask how things are going.
And then just remind them, because they know people you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We talked about LPT. I imagine you probably get this all the time. I mean, you probably have girlfriends who aren't in the business who think about, should I get into real estate? You probably asked that. What do you answer that?
Okay, for instance, I have a yoga friend. She was pregnant, getting ready to have a baby, and she's like, I want to start into real estate. And my immediate thought was, are you crazy? Just because it looks really easy. People can say, oh, all they do is make a few transactions a month and they're living great. There's so much more involved, and you've got to have the time. And if you're sitting with a newborn baby on your hip, but you're trying to make phone calls, it just doesn't always work out. Now, I think she is still moving forward to that, and gosh bless her.
It's a good time to get the training and everything while you're pregnant or going to go and take the class and maybe learn how to be a transaction coordinator like you were a listing assistant coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you've got the time to take in the education and the experience of others, then go for it. Go for it.
I've brought this up at different times with different people, but someone new listening today, I think a lot of people, when they look at, like I said, real estate agents, they think it's all easy. Even when you're at yoga, you're working. you are going to yoga to relieve the stress of your job, just like someone might go to rehab in one way, or, maybe they go to the gym. You are actually doing it for a reason. Yeah. And then there's also the marketing side. Imagine if you're going to the same class every day and you start talking to these other women and maybe you didn't know. Hey, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a real estate. You are marketing. Yeah. There's always a tangible benefit to our business that I think a lot of people like that work their 9 to 5 job. At 5 o'clock, they check out. I don't have to do anything until tomorrow morning. No, we're always going to get a real estate question, a mortgage, what's rates doing? It's a common thing, but that's our lifestyle of real estate. It's the lifestyle of the industry.
It is.
Yeah.
And, even when you go to the grocery store, keeping yourself to be presentable. As much as I would love to just leave the house in my pajamas, run to Publix real quick and grab some coffee and come back, I kind of have to think that through because, even at yoga, I'm marketing myself.
Yeah.
There's people, again, that follow me on social media. I may not necessarily know them, but they found me through yoga and they're following me. So I need to make sure that I'm positioning myself in the best light possible at all times.
Exactly. We talked briefly there for a moment that you guys were doing a lot of training on the new buyer broker agreement before it came on. But how are you doing prior to this, 2022? Were you doing a consultation with your buyers?
I was doing a buyer consultation, but I did not have the buyer agreement into my practice. As soon as we heard that the settlement was happening, I implemented it immediately so that I was already getting into the groove of it so that when it was required, it's already done, set. I'm clear with it. I know what it is that I'm presenting to them so that they're confident that I can get them to the closing table.
What are some of the things you're doing, differently than you were in 22 as far as that presentation?
Sure. So we work a lot with online leads. These are people that are moving in from out of town. They're 300, 400, 500 miles away, and I can't sit in front of them for a buyer consultation. So we hop on Zoom. We'll invite them for a Zoom meeting. We can meet face to face. I can open up and share my screen with them, show them the map of Northeast Florida. We can talk about traffic, locations, where new construction's being built. This is the way I get in front of them the best way possible. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are doing that, but I mean, how important, here we're doing video today, we're videoing this, and social media is part of, like you said, we have a lot of Facebook friends and we know a lot about them just because they're Facebook posts, but we don't, if we've ever actually met them, it's not relevant. We actually kind of know something about them already. How has that video helped you as far as, again, building credibility and kind of building a little bit of that relationship with that?
It kind of breaks down a wall. Once you're in front of them on a video, I get to meet them and then really understand what it is that they're looking for, what type of people they are. Conversation face to face just goes a lot more further, I think, than it does on the phone.
I mean, because there's a lot of nonverbal reactions. Because I imagine, like anything, you may bring up something and you can look at maybe you get a couple in front of you and one of them are going like, no, I'm not interested in that. But then I don't say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you can see that in their body language. And then, and obviously adjust accordingly.
Sure.
Yeah.
It definitely gets you a lot further. And the trust, it opens up the more room for trust.
Yeah.
And yes, you can see a lot more by just seeing someone rather than listening.
Because of our video world today, I mean, when they hit the ground here in Northeast Florida, and they're meeting you wherever it might be. Maybe you're meeting them for coffee. Maybe because you've already built this rapport. Like, hey, when we land, we want to go see this house. When they walk up, that's you.
Yeah.
They've seen you on the video. Not that you do it, but not your headshot that's 10 years old.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. They're going, is this the person that...
Yeah, and they have no idea.
Yeah.
It just opens up dialogue. I mean, it breaks down that wall again to where you're face to face. Another thing I do for my customers that I don't know if a lot of agents do is I preview properties for them. So if they're moving from out of town, I'll go to the property, check it out for them, record a very transparent video pointing out pros and cons of the property, the surrounding area, the neighborhood, the amenities, and then I put it up on Google Drive. I'll send them a link. That way they get an upfront view of the house before they take the time to actually fly here.
What have you seen on the success of that? In other words, when you do put all that information out there in a video or videos and them going, hey, I don't want to see it, save yourself a lot of time, or like, Yeah, and they land, they go look at it, say, yep, this is where we want to be.
Yeah. I think trust. They trust in me because I'm not only pointing out all the great things of the house, I'm pointing out chip paint. If I see a crack, if I see something that needs to be repaired, I'm making sure to include that in the video because it's not only about getting the transaction, it's about making sure that this is the right house for them.
Yeah. I think a lot of people in their mind, depending on where they're coming from, they have this visualization with their front yard or backyard, whatever. They have, maybe they got a dog, right? So maybe they need a fence. And the fact that you're videoing and saying, hey, look at this great backyard and it has a fence for your dog too. Look, it's great. And now they're sunk in versus, if you just assume that, well, they can put up a fence if they want to, so I don't need to video the fence.
Right.
We don't know these little things that just make decisions in people's mind can be such the minorness little thing.
Sure. And during that initial meeting, just making sure you're listening and you're hearing what it is that they're looking for. And then you go to the property and you point that out. I mean, that's showing trust and showing that I was listening when we originally met.
I think it also goes back to, when you mentioned before, how are you doing your business and your education? You're time blocking this to go out into this video because when these people hit the ground, you're going to save a lot of time right off the bat, especially if they're like, no, yeah, we don't want to look at that property. Boom. Or you know what? I want to look at that property because they're actually interested. Now they just want to put a physical hand on it.
Yeah. I think it saves a lot of time. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time for me to go record the video, but I'm saving time for the customer. And that's what's important.
Well, it goes back to the lifestyle thing. There's going to be a certain point, maybe an appointment's canceled or, you made your calls, got your 10 contacts, you're good. It's noontime. It's like, okay, what can I do? I can go shoot a video for the Smiths who are coming in next week on this house I think they should look at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And filling in that gap of time.
Always providing something of value.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a very good statement. Yeah. What are 3 things you think, well, we have 2 questions left here. So what are 3 things that you think all agents need to be doing right now in their business in this current market?
I think agents need to be knowledgeed on interest rates and maybe where they're going and where they've been. Because the number one question for us is, what do you think is going to happen after the election? And gosh, a couple weeks ago, I thought we would be dropped in rates by now. We just went up.
It went back up.
None of us have a crystal ball. We don't really know. But educating yourself as much on the history of it, I think, is important because you have something to talk about. If you don't know what happened before, what are you going to say about the future?
Yeah.
So, yes, education on mortgage rates. Education on what's coming to Northeast Florida. If you're a Northeast Florida agent, you need to know about that new toll road that's going to divert the traffic from the city. You need to know about what is being built. What are they in E-Town? They have a new wave park coming. It's pretty cool, and it's a talking point, and we should know about all of that. So just education on our current area, where we're going, where we are now, and where we're going. Okay. And my third would be making connections. Yeah. Aligning yourself with top agents, making sure you're growing. Yeah. Be that sponge.
I forget who I had it on. I apologize if that person's listening because it wasn't just 2 or 3 agents ago, I think. It might have been Daniel Wolbert with Coldwell Banker, but I'm not 100% sure. That she tries to have lunch with someone every day. And it could be a past client. Say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Let's get together. But like I said, making those contacts and putting them in your schedule to make those contacts and touch those people, because we don't know at any given time, someone knows someone that's, maybe they're refinancing for their mortgage. You can recommend a mortgage person. They're buying or selling and they know someone's buying something. Now hey, you know what? We're looking at what's going on. We want to buy investment property. Yeah. Setting up the regular schedule. So yeah, making the contacts. I want to just, if you give us a broad idea, what are you doing from a marketing standpoint? I know, Chris, you got some lead flow. What would you say a percentage of your business now, because you've been doing it a while, is coming from those fresh, like online leads versus your referrals?
Honestly, since I've been in the industry for a while, I think I'm about 50% of past customers, really, from referrals or whether they're looking to buy and sell new real estate. Right. So 50% there, 50% online leads, really. Networking works for me too. I have but yoga, they all know what I do on a full-time basis. Right. So they're bringing questions to me and I'm able to help friends, family, and maybe even someone that doesn't live in this area. Because we network and we mastermind with agents throughout the country, we're able to find and connect you with an agent in Nashville, Tennessee that will be able to help you there. And I can feel confident to know that I'm aligning you with the right agent.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are to talk about the 50% from the past clients, what are some things that you have built into your daily, monthly routine, whether you're doing or you're having an assistant doing or whatever, as far as touching or even your circle of influence? I'm going to add your past clients, but even your circle of influence, maybe they haven't done a deal with you, but they're good friends of yours, and obviously they're a referral base.
So I use a company called Lolo. It's local restaurants and vendors in the area, and I send a coupon every month to my past customers. I love using that as being a tool to touch base with them. So if they use the coupon, I know right away. So I've got a talking point. And then if I'm going back and maybe
or a good reason to call them, say, hey, did you enjoy that ice cream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I sent you a coupon to X, Y, and Z restaurant. Did you go there and check it out? You know, it's just conversation points. So having a way, automation is the easiest and best way to kind of, so I'm not automating myself making the calls, but I'm automating the coupons that are going out, and then I get a time to check in with them.
Actually, I'm going to add one more to this because I think it's important. I generally put this right in the middle of the show, but have you reached a production level where you personally are probably tapped personally? What do you have in support? Does the Florida Coastal team have something where, a transaction coordinator, assistance, Marcus, some of these things are helping you pick up some of those things?
Yeah. No, the Florida Coastal team is a well-oiled machine. So everyone has their, we've got marketing, we've got internal marketing and marketing that, I guess, VAs, virtual assistants that are there to help us. We've got a local transaction coordinator. We rely heavily on our inspector to help us with education, and also, they're coming into our monthly meetings. Well, we have a weekly meeting, but we might see our inspector once a month. So he's bringing in different vendors. We've got anywhere from people that put signs down, lock boxes down. Right. You've got a staging company. I'm
really just after that because I know there's a lot of agents out there, and actually I'm trying to put it together. I want to do it in December in St. Augustine. Actually, some agents to talk about when you've reached that. Typically, some people it's 5 to 7 million, some people it's 7 to 9. By 10 million, all by yourself, you're kind of like going every direction. Yeah. And different leaders have different ideas. Some people think an assistant is the first thing you do. Yeah. Some people it's transaction coordinator. Are you getting that kind of help?
I don't have a personal assistant yet, but that is something that I would love to have because that will help scale where I am now, because I'm pushing towards 24 transactions right now, and the year's not done. And yes, I feel that I'm pushing towards that limit as far as what I can to have a life. Right. I do need personal time for my own self, and I really try to cherish those 2 days, whether it's in the middle of the week or on a weekend. But I do need personal family time. So keeping that top priority is important, and an assistant would help me do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people in that zone.
Yeah.
I've had actually, Bailey Burnside, who was my last guest, she's exactly in that. So she's exactly where you're at right now. And whether you do a transaction coordinator, and there's services out there. So I'm going to put together 2 or 3 people who are respected in that area. Some people because some experts that I've talked to feel that sub 10 million, you're tapped, you get that right assistant, you're at the 15, and then it takes just another little, and you're in the 20s.
Sure.
Yeah. Because you're being forward facing, you're doing those things, you're doing the things you love to do, you're doing them consistently, and hopefully you have a lot of laughter.
Yeah. Laughter gets you through.
Gets us through the day. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it was a great conversation. There was anyone listening to this could listen all the way through. There was a lot of just great nuggets of information of what you're doing, your mindset, and what you're doing. And I'm hopefully someone calls you up and says, "Hey, can I have coffee with you? Because I want to get more from you."
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This may be it for today's episode of Real Estate Excellence, but we both know your pursuit of excellence doesn't stop here. To connect with the best of the best and really take your skills to the next level, join our community by visiting TracyHayesPodcast.com, where you'll meet more like-minded individuals looking to expand their inner circle and their personal experience. That's available at TracyHayesPodcast.com.